Imagine walking into a room where the air is thick with the scent of humid earth and something sharp, almost medicinal, not the sweet comfort of a modern candy bar, but the smell of a high-stakes ritual. On a stone slab sits a ceramic vessel, its base stained with a dark, stubborn residue that has clung to the clay for 3 millennia. To a casual observer, this is a ghost of a breakfast. To us, it is a crime scene. This liquid was never meant to provide nutrition, it was designed to provide distance. In the sweltering lowlands of the Mexican Gulf Coast, the Olmec didn't just stumble upon the cacao bean, they weaponized it. They took a seed that is naturally bitter, labor-intensive, and chemically potent, and they elevated it into a substance so exclusive that to drink it was to declare oneself more than human. We aren't looking at a culinary milestone, we are looking at the birth of a hierarchy. We are deconstructing a tool of psychological and physical dominance that allowed a few to command the many through the manipulation of a single, dark beverage. Today, we are analyzing this ancient Olmec chocolate not as a recipe, but as an autopsy of power. To understand the Olmec table of power, we have to look past the stone heads and into the mud. In the humid San Lorenzo Tenochtitlan, the social landscape was as stratified as the soil. At the bottom were the farmers, the people tilling the alluvial floodplains to grow maize and beans. Above them was a burgeoning class of artisans, and ultimately the elite, priests and rulers who claimed to mediate between the earthly and the divine. As anthropologist Michael Coe famously argued, cacao wasn't just a crop, it was a currency of the soul. The labor required to produce this single drink was staggering. Cacao trees are finicky. They demand the shade of the canopy and the precise humidity of the tropical lowlands. But the harvest was only the beginning. To turn a raw cacao pod into a drinkable liquid requires a sequence of biological hacks: fermentation to kill the germ and develop flavor, drying to prevent rot, and roasting to loosen the husks. In an era without industrial machinery, this represented hundreds of man-hours diverted from essential food production. When a ruler held a frothy bowl of chocolate, they weren't just consuming calories, they were consuming the diverted labor of dozens of subordinates. It was a physical manifestation of controlled excess. This wasn't merely about wealth, however. It was about the biological control of the senses. Cacao contains theobromine and caffeine, alkaloids that stimulate the heart and clear the mind. By restricting access to this sacred beverage through religious taboo and economic cost, the Olmec elite created a chemical barrier. They were literally more awake and more energized than the exhausted peasantry. The bitterness of the drink, often enhanced with chili or ear flour, served as a sensory gatekeeper. If you hadn't been trained to appreciate the searing, complex bitterness of the elite blend, you quite literally didn't have the taste for power. The meal served as a silent, liquid social contract. The elite drink the divine stimulant, and the masses provide the labor that makes it possible. To truly understand the weight of this drink, I have to step away from the theory and move into the physical reality of the Olmec kitchen. There is no shortcut here. I start with the raw cacao pods, bright oblong fruits that look more like alien eggs than the source of a global obsession. Cracking one open reveals seeds covered in a white, slimy pulp that tastes like a strange mix of lychee and vinegar. This is the first judgment call an ancient cook had to make: the fermentation. Without it, there is no chocolate flavor, only a flat, astringent bean. I've let these sit, covered in banana leaves, for 5 days. The heat generated by the microbes is palpable. The beans are literally cooking themselves in their own sugars. Once dried and lightly roasted over an open flame, the real labor begins. In the modern world, we use steel burr grinders. The Olmecs used the metate, a curved volcanic stone. This is where the relatable explorer disappears and the exhausted laborer takes over. I am on my knees using a heavy stone rolling pin to crush the nibs. It is a grueling, repetitive motion that reeks of sweat and toasted fat. After 30 minutes, my shoulders are burning, yet the texture is still gritty. It takes hours of rhythmic grinding to break the cell walls of the bean and release the cacao butter, turning dry crumbs into a glossy, dark paste. As historian Sophie Coe notes, the Olmecs were likely the first to discover that this paste doesn't naturally mix with water. It resists, it clumps. To solve this, the ancient preparer had to engage in a feat of hydraulic engineering, frothing. I'm pouring the liquid from one vessel to another, held at shoulder height, aiming for a small bowl on the ground. The goal is to trap air, creating a thick, stable foam. This foam was considered the soul of the drink. I'm adding the finishing touches, a pinch of dried chili for a slow, back-of-the-throat burn, and a drop of honey, though for the elite, the bitterness was often the point. There is no milk here, no refined sugar. The resulting liquid is cold, thick, and intimidatingly dark. Standing over the stone tools covered in fine brown dust and feeling the tremors in my forearms, the sage in me realizes that this drink was a triumph of human will over raw nature. The time cost alone, from pod to froth, is so high that no one who spent their day in a cornfield could ever afford the luxury of making it. The exhaustion in my muscles is the evidence. The drink is the trophy of a class that has successfully offloaded the burden of survival onto someone else. Raising the bowl, the first sip is a shock to the system. It is dense, earthy, and hits with a sharp, peppery heat that forces the senses to attention. The foam coats the palate, leaving a lingering, oily richness that feels more like a meal than a beverage. In this moment, the autopsy is complete. The taste confirms the power. This wasn't a drink for the masses, because the masses didn't have the time to process the beans, the status to command the flavor, or the luxury to appreciate the bitterness. The labor I felt in my arms while grinding at the metate reveals the hierarchy. Every drop of this liquid represents a social structure where the many toiled so that the few could reach a state of chemically induced clarity. The Olmec chocolate drink was the ultimate display of authority, a sensory wall built between the ruler and the ruled. It proves that dominance isn't just maintained through force, but through the exclusive control of experience and the manipulation of the natural world into something unrecognizable to the common eye. By decoding this menu, we see the Olmec not just as mother culture artists, but as master architects of social distance. We don't just cook ancient food, we decode the civilizations behind them.